Hello and welcome back to the Not Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, here to look ahead to another weekend of Premiership action. The games are coming thick and fast at the moment, and there is another full card to preview this weekend ahead of another busy midweek card next week. So plenty happening across the Premiership, and we'll have a look at this weekend's fixtures in this video, as well as hearing from managers across the SPFL Premiership. If you do enjoy this video, do remember to like the video and subscribe to our channel. On the Saturday, we've got 5 fixtures: Celtic v Motherwell, Hibs v Aberdeen, a really tasty one, the 3rd v 4th battle, Livingston versus St Johnstone, Ross County versus Dundee United, and St Mirren v Kilmarnock. And then on the Sunday, we have Hamilton Accies versus Rangers in a lunchtime kickoff. We'll bet 4 of the matches, all 4 of them, on the Saturday. Hibs Aberdeen, Livingston St Johnstone, Ross County Dundee United, and St Mirren Kilmarnock will be the games for us this weekend. So do check out our socials and our website to see all the coverage of match reports, game updates, and interviews from them, as well as in the Championship. We should have a couple of games. Dundee Inverness, as I record this, is having a pitch inspection. So if that passes, who knows whether that will pass or not. But if it does, we'll have coverage of that. And Morton v Wraith as well, we'll have coverage of that, which should go ahead as well. So the 2 Championship games could make me look silly. It's been a bit of a tough time in terms of getting fixtures on and stuff across Scotland, really, just now in sort of the Championship. If we get them on, you'll see them across our socials and Twitter too. Anyway, enough of my rambling on. We'll look ahead to the Premiership fixtures this weekend, starting on the Saturday, where we will start at Celtic Park with Celtic versus Motherwell, and we heard from Motherwell manager Graham Alexander ahead of this one. It's a big challenge for his side, despite the fact Celtic have been a bit shaky this season. But he's not focusing on that. He's focusing on what he can get from his players ahead of a big task in the East End of Glasgow.
I think any team can, look, any team has a fighting chance going into a game. If you don't believe that, then I don't think you're a professional sportsman in the first place. That's the reality. You're a professional because you've had these battles since you were a kid. To succeed, to get to professional, you've had to overcome challenges, overcome opposition, for contracts and everything. So you're used to competing. And if that ever goes away, where you don't feel you compete, then you're in the wrong game. And so certainly, previous results for us in our short time have to give the players confidence. They will have that. Even the game at Aberdeen, which we got beat, we know how well we played there while we had 11 men on the pitch. You know what I mean? So even that, we took confidence from that. It could have been a knockback for us, but we won our 2 games after that because we took the positives and the confidence from that. Even though the result wasn't there, the performance was. So we always look for our positives. We don't ignore the negatives. We try to improve them and fix them. But there's a lot of good stuff with what the team have done in the last 5 games, and we have to try and take that to Celtic Park. It's going to be a tough game. We know that, but our approach to it will be similar to the approach that we had to Rangers, not tactically, but as in our mindset. And I think we've got the players that can hurt any opposition in Scotland, and we've got to give them the confidence to try and do that.
Yeah, Mull have done quite well under Graham Alexander so far. They've played 3 teams currently in the top 6, and they have managed to take a point from 2 of those 3 games. They obviously beat the Pittodrie, but they managed to take a point away to St Mirren in a game they probably felt they should have won given the circumstances of the penalty that they lost. As well as that, they also got a draw with Rangers, and only a few teams have did that this season, those being Hibs and Livingston, who are both in the top 6 as well. So a good result from Mull there, as well as they have got victories against those around them in Ross County, and then recently Dundee United on the Wednesday, which was a big result for them. A bit of a nervy final 10 minutes after a really good first half from them. So there are positive signs. Definitely looks a lot better than it did last month at Mull. There were some real relegation fears given the way that was played out, but some new signings, albeit not a lot of them have they made a lot on deadline day 3, which decided to keep me up to the late hours of Monday into Tuesday. If you haven't checked out our deadline day transfer review, then that was out pretty recently on the channel, so do check that out. But Mull were the busiest in that, so they're gelling in those players. Graham Alexander starting to get his ideas across. A couple of interesting methods as well for doing that. So it's another big test from it, and this run was always going to be difficult for Mull, I think, as of now, given that they've only lost 1 of the last 5. I mean, St Mirren away, Rangers, Aberdeen away, Ross County away. Dundee United at home was perhaps one that was seen as a 3-point game. And then they've got Celtic and Kilmarnock away coming next. Kilmarnock away and then Hamilton at home, followed by St Johnstone at home. Perhaps the ones of more importance in terms of defining Mullow's season. Perhaps the next 3 games after Celtic will be the big ones for Mullow. But nonetheless, Celtic have been not great. I think we'll just leave it at that. And Mullow will see this as a chance to perhaps get a first win there, perhaps. Maybe it'd be a big shock. But, I mean, it was a big shock when Ross County and St Mirren won at Celtic Park this season. We've seen St Johnstone and Hibs go there and get a result as well. So it's not without the realms of possibility. Mull are doing fairly well just now, but Celtic will pose Mull a huge challenge and will be huge favourites in this one, as they usually are against pretty much most teams in Scotland when they are playing on their own home turf. But can Mull get their first victory since 2015-16 when a Louis Moult double secured that victory? Remains to be seen. Bye. Hibs v Aberdeen as well on the Saturday. That's the next game we'll talk about. And we heard from Jack Ross ahead of this. Well, he's aware this is a big game in the battle for third and fourth. He's not defining it as a potential biggest game of their season for Hibs.
No, just because of the number of fixtures that lie after it. I think if this fixture was, with a couple of games of the season left, that I would accept that being the case. But it is an important match. It's a big match in the context of where we are trying to finish in the table, how high the table we want to be, and the fact it's against a team that has been we'll swap places with probably all season. So I'm not downplaying the fact it's a big match. I think that given the number of games pre-split and then post-split mean that the consequences of a result either way are not season defining, if you like, but still very, very important. The game at Easter Road, I think was there wasn't a lot in the game. I think the game at Pittodrie was I think I questioned the players a little bit after that in terms of our mindset and where we wanted to get to. And I think the players' reaction to that game was good. The truth is there's never going to be much in the games in terms of Aberdeen as a squad where they've been consistently and where they've been for most of the season, if not all of the season. So I don't read any more into it than that. I think they've been the first game certainly was usually competitive, and I think for us the good thing we're now going into this fixture in good form. I've seen a lot of other teams praised over this recent period, and I think over the last 5 league games, I think we've taken the second highest points total in the league behind Rangers, which you wouldn't think in terms of the praise that's been lavished on other teams, but we've done well in that period, and it means that we go into tomorrow's game in a good frame of mind and also understand, as I said earlier, the significance of the match as well.
Yeah, it's a massive game, this, I think, in the context of who will finish third and fourth. Hibs have got a game in hand over Aberdeen, albeit Aberdeen's game, I think, is in hand against Celtic. But if Hibs do manage to win this, they open up a 5-point gap on Aberdeen, which would be a really big boost for them, especially with Livingston, I think, slowly creeping up on third and fourth with just winning every game at the moment, it seems. So, yeah, really important game this. Aberdeen have had the better of this tie this season. They've won at both Easter Road and Pittodrie. I was at the first one at Easter Road earlier in the season, and it was really, really tight. Aberdeen brought it in a bit of a stuffy game, and they got the win in the end through it. So it'll be interesting to see what lessons Jack Ross has sort of learned from the first couple of games. As he said in his presser, the thing that's gone wrong is Aberdeen have scored more goals. So it might be as simple as that, but I think he'll obviously know that it's a big challenge for his side. They've perhaps fallen a bit short in the big games so far this season, which will be a disappointment to the fans, and I'm sure no more than Jack Ross and his team. So they'll be looking for a big victory here in the Premiership when Aberdeen do come to town. And if they do open up that gap, perhaps if the aforementioned Mullow can get some sort of result against Celtic, perhaps they start to look even further ahead than third, albeit Celtic do have a couple of games in hand. But, I mean, by the end of this weekend, Hibs could be as close as 3 points to second place in the current champions. So, again, not without the realms of possibility. Livingston v St Johnstone in a Scottish League Cup sort of dress rehearsal, I suppose. These two will go head-to-head at the end of the month in the League Cup final at Hampden, but this game is still of much importance. Perhaps, of course, not perhaps, definitely. The game at the end of the month is going to be more important the chance to win silverware for both these sides doesn't come around very often. But I mean, St Johnstone lose this one, and they can, perhaps they're only 4 points clear of 11th place in the relegation zone, although I'm sure Callum Davidson's side, after a really positive run of results, the League Cup win over Hibs, a draw with Aberdeen, and then a comeback victory from 2-0 down last weekend against sort of a team around them in Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, was really positive. So they're going really well just now, and they'll probably want to look up the table, because from 6th to 11th looking at the table here, it is very, very tight. St Mirren are only 6 points above 11th, although again they'll have ambitions of not looking down the way, very much looking up the way, especially with their games in hand. They've got a few to play yet due to all the COVID stuff from earlier in the season. So yeah, it should be an intriguing one. And then for Livingston, I mean, they never look like losing ever again. And the thing is that, I mean, I tweeted out earlier in the week that Livingston could go unbeaten at to the end of the season, and I don't think that's as unrealistic as it perhaps sounds. They just don't look like a team who are getting beat anytime soon. That being said, now that I've said this, that St Johnstone will go out and win 2 or 3-0, but I think in all seriousness, that's probably unlikely. There'll be a major coup for whoever manages to burst this Livingston run. All good things have to come to an end. It doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon for Davy Martindale and his side. So a really interesting one to see whether St Johnstone can be that thorn in their side. Ross County v Dundee United up in Dingwall, another big one. Dundee United watched them during the week. Didn't start the first half very well against Motherwell, and that sort of cost them in the end. They were much better in the second half, but just not enough to get a result. They've been struggling for form lately. It's one win in over 10 games now. I think it's 12 is the exact number, 12 or 13. So, well, they are sat in 7th. A victory for Ross County could pull them within 2 points of Dundee United, and Ross County currently occupy 11th. And I mean, if they do get that victory, Ross County, then they could jump up to 9th. So, really good time for John Hughes to be playing this one, and perhaps one that could again be another massive one their season. But their home form hasn't been great this season, Ross County. They've only won a couple of matches at home, but with 3 games at the Global Energy Arena to come. Obviously, Dundee United this weekend, followed by Hibs and Celtic. John Hughes knows that the form has to pick up in Dingwall.
Yeah, 100%. It's if you win your home games, you're well in, you know. And it's always been renowned to be a tough place coming up to Ross County. And that we have to do that. We have to turn this place into a fortress and start winning. And the only way you can do that is win. And hopefully that'll be the case on Saturday. I'm just hoping that we can. I've talked a lot about when I've come in here of, we cannot score goals. We can't keep it a real bad recipe, losing goals and can't score goals. I'm now starting to see that we're scoring goals. That's one thing that we're doing. We're scoring goals. So I'm always a great believer, and if you have a goal and score goals, then it might be a little bit organised chaos, but at least it's having a right go. And I feel that that's the steps that we're making to try and get to that. I know I've said now, as anybody that plays against Ross County, be at home or away, they'll know they're in a game. No matter how we do it, it's all about the remit is to stay in the SPL, so it will help if we start winning the home games, that's for sure.
And we heard from Micky Mellon as well after the game versus Motherwell midweek, and he needs his side to sort of improve upon their second half performance. Even though it was better than their first half performance at Fir Park, it only served to anger him more because he knows his players can deliver to a level where they can begin to start racking up victories again.
Disappointed after 20 minutes that we didn't answer the questions when the game changed a little bit with a couple of free kicks. We started really well and passing it around, but then as a group we need to get better at understanding that the game won't always go the way that we want it to go. Sometimes you get asked to do things that just roll your sleeves up and dig in and go and deal with things, and we didn't do that enough after that first 20 minutes. We had a chat in half time, and then we go to the second half, and that's probably the thing that makes it more confusing and probably makes you a wee bit more angry, as they find another 30% in the second half and look like a completely different team, as if I'd made 11 subs. And that's something that we as a group have to look at ourselves and find out why that happened. Why can we find that in the second half, and we don't start with that level of intensity when the game changes, why don't we find the answers to the asks? It's something that we will go in tomorrow and we will ask again. My job is to try and make them better players and understand that when that happens, you've just got to dig in and you've got to find that place when the game becomes like that and it's dealing with corners or knockdowns. That's just the way football goes, and you've just got to accept that. That's the big thing. You've got to accept that and just be good at it, even if it isn't the way that you believe the game should be played. And that's what we have to keep working hard to try and get them to understand.
And St Mirren v Kilmarnock's the last one on the Saturday, and we heard from Jim Goodwin and James Fowler ahead of this one, head of football operations at Kilmarnock. St Mirren's boss, obviously, it's a bit of cutthroat management. This one's been the talking point. Alex Dyer left his position as Kilmarnock manager last weekend by mutual consent after a poor run of form, sort of dragging Kilmarnock into the relegation fight down the bottom of the league. And it means the likes of Andy Mellon and James Fowler have been filling in while Kelly looked for a new manager in the process. And Jim Goodwin's well aware of the cutthroat nature of management, but he is very privileged to be in the position he is in after a spell working for Cadbury's after retirement from the game as a player, whereas James Fowler was hoping that Kilmarnock fans can begin to see the best of their new signings after two young men from the Premier League in Zet Medley and Brandon Pierrick arrived at Rugby Park on deadline day.
When you lose games of football, then all of a sudden your position comes under threat, and that's every manager in the game, no matter what level you're playing at, is well aware of that. It is what it is. It's a results-driven business, as people keep saying, and we're fortunate at the moment that we've been okay and that we've been on a good run of form. But you can never get too comfortable in this position. As a manager, you can be the greatest thing since sliced bread a month ago, and then all of a sudden lose 2 or 3 games, and all of a sudden you're under pressure. So it is what it is. That's why we love the game. That's why certainly I love it. I love that buzz. I love that, that kind of pressure that people put on you, but also the pressure that we put on ourselves. I'm one of these people that, and I know it's a real old cliche where people say, oh, you can't get too high and you can't get too low. My problem is never getting too high, because I never really get too carried away with the wins, but I really struggle with the defeats, and I probably do allow those to affect me too much, because I take so much responsibility for whatever happens on a match day. And if we lose a game, then ultimately it's my fault because I've picked the wrong 11 or got the tactics wrong. And, it does take a couple of days to analyse the situation and reflect on it. So getting too high after a win is never an issue, but trying to pick myself up after a defeat is always a problem. Try and let things seem calm, but obviously we want to win every game that we go into, and as a manager, it's the onus is on us to make sure that happens. But I'll never take this position for granted. There's no doubt about that. There's nobody that needs to remind me of what a privileged position I am in, and that goes for every other manager that's out there. I've had the good fortune of working in the real world like you guys, and I've driven around shop to shop hundreds of miles a week selling chocolate. I've set up my own courier business, working 14, 15-hour days. So there's nobody more appreciative of the position that I'm in than me, and that's why I'm so determined, and that's why I work so hard.
Yeah, I think obviously we've seen a little bit of Brandy tonight, and I think he'll add pace to that final third. He's got obviously a good skill, an eye for a goal as well. So hopefully we can see more of that as we progress. And his ex obviously up the centre back, he's good in terms of his athleticism. He's comfortable on the ball. He's had a loan spell already this year as well. So I think he'll definitely add to the group and help between now and the end of the season. Yeah, I think obviously it wasn't ideal when the manager left on Saturday just before a transfer deadline day, that we had identified targets and we had identified positions that we felt we needed. So probably a bonus of having me in my role. We're able to still progress with them, because whoever does come in, we'll make sure we've got competitive squad and players as well. We feel we've got that. Obviously we've got a few that are out missing just now that have been key players for us over a number of years. But that just gives somebody else an opportunity to kind of step up. As a staff, you'll support them doing that.
And on the Sunday, Hamilton Accies versus Rangers. again, it's top versus bottom in the Premiership, but Hamilton need to be beating teams. And I know that might sound very unrealistic, and it probably is when they're playing Rangers, who have literally swept past just about everybody in the league this season. They really need to get results. A Ross County win could potentially leave them as 5 points if Kilmarnock don't pick up a result. But it's a tough one. If Motherwell, you'd like to think Celtic could beat Motherwell on Saturday. Well, Motherwell will fancy their chances in that one. Celtic are the favourites, so if we're going to give it to the favourites, Kilmarnock and Ross County are both got games that they'll be eyeing 3 points in. Hamilton could be as many as 6-7 points adrift at the bottom of the league should they lose and results go against them as well. So they really need to be picking up points regardless of opponent. I think Brian Rice has sort of addressed that himself, that they are in danger a wee bit of getting cut off. But the main talking point, I suppose, with Hamilton this week hasn't been on the park, it's been off the park with. Yeah, I don't need to name it. You all know what I'm talking about with Hamilton. That was some scenario. I think we'll just leave it at that. I don't think there's anything more insight I can provide into that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know how you've missed it, Bob. Of course, it's to do with Hamilton's commentator saying not even an expletive, just taking a joke a bit too far during their defeat to Ross County midweek. And that's obviously taking the headlines, and the man's now been dismissed of his role as commentator at Hamilton. But that result was a really big one because it has now left Hamilton 4 points adrift at the bottom. So they really need to start picking up points sometime soon. Of course, games like against Rangers are a bit of a free hit, but I suppose they might. And again, they've got Livingston midweek, which is another difficult one. St Mirren away and Motherwell away, Hibs away as well. So it is a pretty horrible run. Not to mention that they're going to have St Johnstone off the back of a League Cup final, Aberdeen at Pittodrie, and St Mirren as well. So there's a lot of games in there that, up until the split, up until the middle of March, Hamilton really don't have a game or an easy game at all, a game at home where you could say, right, this is a potential one for 3 points. I think in everyone, pretty much the underdogs in. But Brian Rice and his side like that tag, so I'm not sure they'll be too fussed by that. However, regardless of ties, regardless of commentators, regardless of opponents, as I've already mentioned a few times, they do need to start picking up points, and that they will hope starts on Sunday, but against a Rangers side who have been really good this season, they'll know they're up against it. But that's all I've got time for on this preview. We hope you do enjoy. Do remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Keep up to date with all our reviews and previews that we've got on over the course of this month. We'll have League Cup final build up towards the middle of it as well as that starts, and a few other bits and bobs as we get round to it in this very busy period in Scottish football. Right, thanks for watching. Until next time, take it easy.